note that there were over 140 individuals who had registered. We have 70 attending, which is excellent, and we want to ensure that there's an opportunity to hear your questions and comments. Xinyi Canada will be is through Chris Pigeon is providing you the information, and we hope that it will answer the key questions that you have. Chris, I think if we could turn it over to you to begin your presentation, and I will take us through some of the sort of ways to contribute when we get to the discussion as well. We think your presentation is under an hour, so we know that there will be some time to be listening to that presentation, and we hope that it will provide you the information that might assist you in then asking the questions that you have. Please don't wait to ask questions. You can go into that Q&A bar at any point in time and ask your question or comment, and I will be able to go there following the presentation. So Chris, if I could have you start, that would be excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sue. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to be here this afternoon to present to you the Xinyi Canada Glass proposed float glass manufacturing facility to be located in South Stratford. I have a lengthy slide deck, about 59 slides that I'm going to take you through. There's a lot of information. If you, during the Q&A portion, if you would like us to go back to a particular slide, each of the slides are numbered in the bottom right-hand corner. If you can make note of that, that'll make it easier for us to get back to the slide deck. Also with me this afternoon are some of our project team, so it's not our entire project team, but some of our project team to assist in answering the questions that you may bring forward. So I have Henry Senton. Henry is a transportation engineer with Burnside Engineering. We also have Walter Fady, who is the project architect and project engineer. We have two civil engineers. We have Shelley Forwell and Rushan Kakari, both civil engineers. From Pynchon Engineering, we have Rosalind Miller, who's an expert in air quality. And then finally, we have a senior biologist with Natural Resource Solutions, Inc., Jessica Linton. So quick outline of my presentation to you. So I'd like to give you a little bit of information about who Xinyi Canada Glass is and their overall operations, the site and the surrounding context of the site, details of the proposed development, technical studies, just a quick overview of the technical studies that have been submitted, the timeline for construction and operation, and then economic benefits before we open it up to questions and answers. So Xinyi Glass was founded in 1988 with headquarters in Hong Kong. Xinyi currently has 10 manufacturing facilities with building areas of just shy of 7 million square meters, which equates to 74 million square feet. They currently operate 36 production lines and have an employment workforce of 13,000 people. Xinyi Canada Glass has been in Canada for 20 years. They currently have 3 business operations in Ontario, and they currently employ over 80 employees in Canada. Since listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2005, Xinyi Group has emerged as a global leader in the manufacturing of float glass, and they capture 7% of the global float glass market, and they have a customer network that reaches into approximately 140 countries worldwide, and that includes Canada. So this slide illustrates some of the buildings that have been constructed in Ontario where Xinyi Glass product has been used, including the Bank of Canada in Ottawa, the Distillery District in Toronto, York Region, Viva Station, and Union Station in downtown Toronto. And then some other international buildings that have been constructed using Xinyi Glass in Tokyo, in Chicago, and even at the Winter Olympics that were held in British Columbia. Float glass is in your everyday life, and it's one of the most widely used forms of glass. Float glass is a very flat glass stock that is produced from a mixture of natural ingredients, and that includes silica sand, soda ash, and other minerals. that are manufactured using a floating glass process. So float glass products are used for a variety of consumer products, including residential windows and doors, commercial curtain wall buildings. So those are the glass cladding that you see on high-rise buildings, for example, in Toronto. Automobile glass, architectural glass, including railing systems, bus shelters, shower doors, office partitions. Float glass is used in mirror product production and electronic products. So very thin glass used, for example, on your touch cell phone as an example. There are 0 float glass manufacturers in Canada. There are 30 in the United States and 6 located in Mexico. And float glass is one of the most basic and essential building materials, and Canada currently relies 100% on the importation of float glass products from other countries. The Stratford facility will establish a secure Canadian source of float glass that will be capable of meeting the market demand in Canada, and it will eliminate our reliance on importation of float glass. The majority of the float glass product will be serving the Canadian market. Xinyi started its journey to locate a float glass manufacturing facility in Canada in 2018. And it began with a trade mission by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2018 to China, where he visited the Xinyi glass manufacturing facility. And then that was followed by a trade mission in the fall of 2018 by then the Premier Kathleen Wynne from the province of Ontario. Since that time, the office of the Premier, Doug Ford today, and other ministries and the Conservation Authority have all been partners with Xinyi in trying to identify a location to bring the float glass manufacturing facility to Ontario. Xinyi underwent a province-wide site search beginning in 2018. Their criteria are they need a large, relatively flat site, approximately 1 kilometer in length, and that's because of the length of the building required in the manufacturing and particularly the cooling and warehousing of glass. They require to be adjacent to a railway main line, good accessibility to provincial highways, a minimal dewatering for construction because of the depth of footings for the furnace, for example, sufficient supply of water, hydro, and natural gas. And they also were interested in proximity to post-secondary institutions as a source for employment. And Stratford, Ontario is able to meet all of those criteria. So this is an overview of the site itself. It is 70 hectares. It's at the south end of Stratford, just south of Line 29. It is on the west side of Highway 7, and you can see that it's immediately adjacent to the CN rail line. So it's 173 acres overall. The site features include a small woodlot, just under 1 hectare in size, or about 2.5 acres, and there is a municipal drain that is located perpendicular to line 29. And adjacent to that, there are 3 other woodlots that abut the property. And this is simply an image photograph of that woodlot, which is labeled as W1, that is on the site, and then the municipal drain. So the float glass manufacturing facility is comprised of about 5 components. So the first is number 1, which is the manufacturing facility. That is in the extreme southwest corner of the site. And then number 2 is the large warehousing facility that extends towards Highway 7. There's a proposal for an office building along Highway 7, an emergency preparedness center, which is identified as 4, which I'll speak a little bit more about in a few moments. There's a large stormwater management pond to just south of Perth Line 29. And that stormwater management pond is to accommodate the runoff, the drainage from the rooftop, and the asphalt areas, the driveways and parking lots, and to be held on site and then outlet to that municipal drain. And then number 6 is vacant and future development lands. So this slide is simply in plan view an illustration of those components again. You can see that the manufacturing facility is approximately 220 meters away from those 5 existing residences that front onto Highway 7. There are some additional infrastructure requirements as a part of the float glass manufacturing facility. The first is an Enbridge natural gas station that will be constructed just south of Line 29, adjacent to the railway. There's a municipal sanitary pump station and force main that's required to relay the sewage from the plant to the sewage treatment plant in Stratford. And then there's a guard station that will be constructed as a part of the Xinyi operation for the first entrance, which is on Line 29, and the second entrance, which will be on Highway 7. In addition, 3 spur lines are required to be constructed adjacent to the CN railway, and that is for the delivery of raw product. And that raw product includes sand, soda ash, and limestone, which are all naturally occurring products. So this is a blow up of the manufacturing component of the site. Again, it's located in the southwest corner. This is where the raw product will be handled by and received by the railway. There's a furnace and the 100-meter stack that will be engineered for the upward dispersal of cleaned air, predominantly steam and emissions. There will be energy supply stations, including a hydro substation and a water recycling station in this location, as well as waste heat recovery for electricity generation, for space heating of the buildings, and for hot water supply. And then finally, there's the glass cooling that will extend as part of the manufacturing facility and recycling that will take place as a part of the manufacturing component. This is the large warehouse that is located closer towards Highway 7. It'll be a single-story building with a maximum of 17 meters in height, just over 50 feet in height. There will be no exterior loading docks. All of the loading will be done internally. And the photograph is actually a truck, as you can see, inside the building being loaded with glass. This building will be surrounded by driveways. Out towards Highway 7, this is where the second access will be located. So that's at the north end of the property, up adjacent to the Walsh property, which is the strawberry farm to the north. And there will be a cluster of buildings, including an office, cafeteria, and an emergency preparedness center, which I'll speak about again in a few moments. So these are separated from the manufacturing and warehouse facilities. And then just a blow up then of that cluster of buildings, the office, the cafeteria, and then 3-story emergency preparedness center. So the emergency preparedness center is not for catastrophic emergency response. It is not in the event of a fire. It is for operational emergencies, and that includes the deployment of standby experts in the event of an operational emergency, such as a hydro outage. And these staff will be deployed to the manufacturing facility to restart those systems and to ensure continuous operations of the glass manufacturing plant. The plant cannot, the furnace cannot cease operation for more than 40 minutes, or it is a 9-month restart because the glass cools and it has to essentially be chipped out of the furnace. So we need, Xinyi needs continuous operations. A maximum of 50 standby experts will be deployed to the various components of the manufacturing facility in the event of an operational emergency to ensure those continuous operations. I'd like to spend just a couple seconds on talking about the interface between those 5 residents on Highway 7 and the warehouse building. So this is a cross section. This is the warehouse building on the Xinyi site. And then the distance to those residences on Highway 7 is approximately 150 meters. And between those residents' property and the active operations of the plant, we are proposing a 25-meter wide berm. It will have a height of 3 meters and then a 2.4 meter high acoustical wall that will be on top of the berm. And this berm will be landscaped to provide for visual barrier to those residences and a noise barrier. So this is an example of what a berm and acoustical wall will look like adjacent to those residences. I'd like to give you just a brief description of the manufacturing operation so you have a general sense of how the plant will function. So first of all, it's highly automated and it's fully controlled and monitored using a central computer systems. The raw product, as I indicated, is brought in by rail car. So that's the sand, soda ash, and limestone. Products are then conveyed in enclosed conveyors and then stored in silos because the product has to remain dry until it's ready to be used. The products are then mixed and fed into a furnace, and the finished product is glass, is floated onto a tin bath, and the tin bath is necessary to achieve an extremely pure and flat glass sheet. Water is used in an enclosed system, and it's used for indirect cooling of the glass. It doesn't actually come into contact with the glass, but that glass is then recirculated for reuse over and over again, and then ultimately discharged intermittently. The glass, as it rolls out, is then cut into various sheets and sizes, and those edges are cut off to create a very a clean edge of those glass sheets, and the offcuts are then recycled back into new glass. The glass stock sheets are then stored in a warehouse racking system, and the glass then is loaded in from within the warehouse, so no external loading is taking place, loaded onto trucks, and the trucks are then used to ship to the various markets in Canada. In terms of employment, Xinyi at operation will have 320 highly skilled jobs, and that skilled workforce will include engineers, a broad range of engineers, including mechanical, automation and robotics, electrical, environmental, computer and mineral. There will be technicians, lab technicians, hydraulic mechanics, electricians. There'll be operators, including warehouse operators and logistics, forklift operators, management and administration, including human resources, sales and marketing, accounting, supply chain management, and safety and security. And then there will also be scientists. So there will be a research and development center for process innovation and for product development. Xinyi has already partnered with the University of Waterloo and Conestoga College for co-op placements and engineering research and development. They are a funding partner at the University of Waterloo. As you can see here, this is from the university's website through the Engineering Ideas Clinic in the refinement of their research and development for their glass products. So these co-op placements will be used as a part of the employment workforce in operating the glass manufacturing facility. There have been 10 technical studies that have been completed in support of the float glass manufacturing facility. They include an environmental impact study, which evaluates the natural features on site and adjacent to the site, geotechnical studies, study which includes the investigation of soils, archaeological assessments, which is a requirement of the province of Ontario for development on newly developed land, traffic impact study, functional servicing report, which evaluates water and sanitary usage, stormwater management report, evaluating drainage from the site, a noise feasibility report, air quality reports, erosion and siltation control and temporary stormwater management report, which is really dealing with the construction activity on site, and an Ontario Building Code schematic design report. So how the overall manufacturing facility will comply with the Ontario Building Code. I'd like to take you through just a very high-level review of each of these reports. So the environmental impact study was completed by Natural Resource Solutions, Inc. They evaluated that one woodlot that is on site and the 3 woodlots that are adjacent to the site. And those evaluations included vegetation communities, flora inventories, breeding bird surveys, amphibian call surveys, habitat assessments and documentation of other wildlife, and looked at endangered species and species at risk. The environmental impact study recommended the removal and compensation for the removal of that one woodlot, again, approximately 1 hectare or 2.5 acres. It also recommended the 3 adjacent woodlots, that there be a 10-meter buffer to the drip line of those trees for any buildings or driveways. The environmental impact study also recommended tree compensation at a ratio of 3 to 1. So for every acre or every tree removed, the intent is to replace that. So 2.5 acres requires 7.5 acres in replacement. 5 acres are going in Perth South. This is at the Arboretum in Perth South. And 2.5 acres of planting will occur on site. A minimum of 500 trees overall to be planted, a variety of native hardwoods, and at 100% Xinyi's costs. The approval authorities for the environmental impact study include the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, the Township of Perth South, and the City of Stratford. The second report is a geotechnical report. So it's a soils report. It was prepared by Pynchon Environmental. It evaluated the soil conditions to inform the facility design. So for example, the design of foundations, the design of driveways, and the stormwater management facility. Approximately 30 boreholes, there was a drill rig out on site, and 30 boreholes were drilled across the site to depths of 15 meters or 50 feet. And they concluded that there is a deep groundwater aquifer. One of the criteria for Xinyi to locate here was to minimize the dewatering during construction. There were archaeological assessments completed, so phases 1, 2, and 3 are all required by the province of Ontario. This archaeological assessment included a review of cultural heritage elements, including finds associated with the Grand Trunk Railway. And that triggered a phase 3 investigation that has now been completed and has been approved by the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. There's a traffic impact study that has been prepared by R.J. Burnside. It evaluated all of the lands that were annexed, so not just the Xinyi lands, but the Walsh Farm to the north and other lands to the northeast, including what are the existing traffic volumes. It projected what the growth in traffic would be to 2024 and 2029 without Xinyi's development. And then it also included what the traffic generated by Xinyi would be. And the purpose of that traffic study was to evaluate the road network, including 5 intersections, to determine any road improvement requirements. So numbers 1, 3, and 4 are existing road intersections between Line 29 and Durkin, Dunn, and Erie Street, or Highway 7. And then the additional intersections, so number 2 is the entrance to the Xinyi glass plant on line 29, and number 5 is the second entrance to the glass plant off of Highway 7. The traffic impact included the Xinyi generated traffic, and that's comprised of employee traffic, so vehicular traffic, and then truck traffic. So in the AM peak hour, 170 employees will be entering the Xinyi site. So that's 120 regular scheduled staff, so office staff, for example, and 50, regular scheduled staff on shift, and then 50 shift scheduled staff, plus 50 shift scheduled staff exiting. And then in the PM peak hour, there will be 120 regular scheduled staff exiting the site. So that's the car traffic, if you will, that'll be coming and going. And then the truck traffic, the total daily trip generation is anticipated to be 50 trips into the site. So that's 50 trucks entering the site and 50 trucks exiting the site. So the maximum truck trips will be 8 trucks per hour, or 1 truck every 7.5 minutes in the peak hour. The traffic impact study recommended road improvements that include signals at Highway 7 and Perth Line, as well as turn lanes, possible new signals and turn lanes at Dunn and Perth Line 29, and new turn lines at both entrances to Line 29 and Highway 7 for the entrances to the Xinyi plant. The approval authorities for the traffic impact study are the Ministry of Transportation and the City of Stratford. The functional servicing report was prepared by Walter Fady, and it evaluated water and sewerage usage for Xinyi, Stratford's capacity to accommodate Xinyi servicing needs, and Stratford's sanitary and water infrastructure requirements to meet the Xinyi requirements. Xinyi requires 2,500 cubic meters of water per day. So on a yearly basis, that's just shy of 1 million cubic meters of water per year. Approximately 60% of that water evaporates into steam during the cooling process. Xinyi produces approximately 1,000 cubic meters of wastewater per day that will go to the Stratford wastewater treatment plant. Xinyi's wastewater will meet all of Stratford's sewer use bylaw listed parameters. So there'll be no exceedances on the gray water that will be going to the sewage treatment plant. Stratford currently has provincial approvals for 32,000 cubic meters of water per day. That's 12 million cubic meters of water per year based on Stratford's water taking permits approved by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Stratford currently uses 3.6 million cubic meters per year. So without Xinyi, Stratford's current usage is 3.6 or 30.8% of the 12 million cubic meters per year of available water supply. Xinyi will increase Stratford's usage, again, by just less than 1 million cubic meters per year. So the overall combined existing water usage and Xinyi water usage will be 4.3 million cubic meters, or 38.6% of Stratford's available water supply. So Xinyi will increase sewage flows to the Stratford wastewater treatment plant by 2.7%. So that will leave a residual available capacity of 32% of unused capacity at the sewage treatment plant. So in conclusion, Stratford can accommodate the proposed water and wastewater requirements of Xinyi without compromising the existing supply or capacity. In the functional servicing report, it indicates how those services are to be extended. There's an existing 300 meter or millimeter diameter, a 12-inch water main that's located on line 29. So Xinyi will have one water service connection there. And then a second water service will be extended along Highway 7. And that is a redundant or backup water supply. So in the event of a water main break, there is a continuous water supply to the Xinyi plant so that they have continuous operations. And then thirdly, there will be a sanitary pump station and force main that will be constructed where number 3 is located, just south of line 29. That'll be constructed by the City of Stratford. The approval authorities for the functional servicing report include the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and the City of Stratford. The next technical report is Stormwater Management Report, again prepared by Walter Fady, and it evaluated storm drainage from hard surface areas, the rooftops and driveways, and evaluated the soil composition to determine the ability to infiltrate that water into the soil, and the Stratford capacity in the existing storm sewer system and municipal drains. The Stormwater Management Report concluded that there are low infiltration opportunities. The soils on site are quite heavy in terms of clay and silt soils, so they're difficult to infiltrate. So the water will be detained on site with a large stormwater management pond. So line 29 is here. The railway is immediately to the west. There will be an 8-hectare stormwater management pond that will be constructed to accommodate the drainage for the Xinyi project. And then in addition, the project will implement best management practices, which includes bioswales and other low-impact development controls. Again, the approval authorities are the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and the City of Stratford. It was a noise feasibility study that was prepared by RWDI, and that was proposed to evaluate, or that was written to evaluate the proposed float glass plant against the provincial regulations. So they include land use compatibility, D-series guidelines of the Ministry of Environment, the Environmental Protection Act, and the Ministry of Environmental Conservation and Parks noise guideline NPC 300. That noise feasibility study evaluated the operations of the manufacturing facility and trucks entering and exiting the site against 11 sensitive receivers. So there are 11 residences in proximity to the site, and it used the Ministry of Environment noise thresholds of maximum nighttime noise levels of 45 decibels and daytime noise levels of 55 decibels. Those are the maximum permitted by any industrial operation adjacent to a residential use. So this graphic shows the noise level contours, and it shows the 11 sensitive residential uses surrounding the property. And as I indicated earlier, there will be a berm and a acoustical noise wall that will be constructed here. That has the effect of deflecting those noise levels. The conclusion is that all of those sensitive land uses meet the provincial requirements in terms of maximum noise levels. So the noise levels at those receivers will be less than the maximum permitted by the province. So again, this is just an illustration of that cross section to those closest residents that front on to Highway 7. This noise study is required to be approved by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. So the next technical study is the air quality report. So it's a report that was prepared by Pynchon that evaluated the float glass plant based on emissions, predominantly the exhaust of the burning of natural gas. That air quality emission source is through the engineered stack, the 100-meter stack that's designed for the dispersion of emissions to the atmosphere. The Xinyi glass emissions will be better than the 2023 Canadian and Ontario air quality air quality regulation standards. So the 2023 regulations haven't come into force in effect yet. They will come in that year. And Xinyi anticipates meeting targets being considerably less than the maximum targets permitted by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. So nitrogen oxide during the 24-hour or 1 hour will be 20% or 30% of the maximum permitted by the Ministry of Environment. Sulfur dioxide emissions will be less than 55% in the 1 hour, less than 20% of the maximum permitted emissions by the province of Ontario. And particulate matter will be less than 5% of the permitted limit in a 24-hour period. And of course, the approval authority for this is the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. The Erosion and Siltation Control and Temporary Stormwater Management Report was also prepared by Walter Fady. And this really sets out the procedures for site preparation for construction and the construction activities. So it includes things like construction entrance and traffic control, erosion control, soil management in the stripping of topsoil and moving soil around on site, refueling safety measures that have to be imposed, and temporary drainage controls. The approval authorities for this report are the Conservation Authority, the Ministry of Environment, and the City of Stratford. And then finally, there was an Ontario Building Code schematic design report, also prepared by Walter Fady's architects and engineers. It describes all of the buildings and the Ontario Building Code classification that applies to each. It describes the structural, mechanical, and electrical systems, the life safety systems to be employed, and the building code and fire code analysis. And the approval authority for this is the Chief Building Official for the City of Stratford. This slide illustrates the timeline for construction and operation. So in 2021, we have now submitted a formal site plan application to the City of Stratford for review and processing. We anticipate starting site grading and construction early in 2021. We propose to start the infrastructure upgrade. Then in 2022, construction will continue. We will start the equipment installation for the manufacturing facility. We'll complete the infrastructure upgrades that are required, and there will be a recruitment and training for 20 to 40 positions, mainly to initiate the manufacturing, for sales and marketing, and the supply chain management. In 2023, the construction will come to a conclusion. All of the equipment will be installed. All of the infrastructure upgrades will be complete. The project commissioning and trial production will begin. Initial production of float glass in 2023, and there will be a recruitment and training for a total workforce of 320 employees. 2024 is when we'll see full production at full capacity, additional recruitment and training for additional 30 skilled workforce. Xinyi is going to implement some environmental sustainability elements. So Xinyi Glass incorporates these elements into their production system, and that includes, of course, the manufacturing of energy-saving glass. So Energy Star glass creates an effective reduction of energy and carbon footprint. They also will capture their heat generated in the production process, and that heat will then be used for the generation of electricity to be used in the manufacturing facility. It equates to 4.5 megawatts, and that has an equivalent of being able to provide hydro to approximately 3,000 homes. That heat generation will also be used for building space heating and for hot water supply. The next element is cooling water for the glass will be recycled. So as I indicated, that cooling water from the City of Stratford water system will be used over and over again. It will be recycled. The glass cullet, or the waste or broken glass, will be reused and fed back into the furnace to produce new glass. And then finally, the rooftop will be designed for solar panel to be installed. And then, as I've indicated, there's tree compensation planting that's taking place in Perth South at the Arboretum and on site. So then finally, with regard to carbon emission reductions, so Xinyi, locating in Stratford, has an opportunity to significantly reduce the global carbon footprint. So it is estimated that carbon reduction by Xinyi's glass products will save 70,000 metric tons of carbon per year. So 70,000 metric tons equates to supplying glass in 100,000 households per year. And secondly, it is estimated that producing glass in the local market versus importing glass from other marketplaces will have an effect of reducing 46,000 metric tons of carbon per year. So overall, there will be a reduction in the carbon footprint of 100,000 metric tons per year in the production of glass and the supply of glass locally. There are many economic benefits to Stratford, and the first is an investment of over $400 million by Xinyi in the Stratford site. Property taxes, Xinyi will contribute a significant property tax estimated to be over $3 million per year. That amount of property tax will be payable subject to the assessed value, which is determined, of course, by the province of Ontario through the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Xinyi will pay for their electricity, water, and sewage supplies that are going to be coming from Festival Hydro and the City of Stratford. Xinyi is going to contribute their fair share to the infrastructure improvements, the sanitary pump station and force main, the road improvements. The entrances will be 100% Xinyi's costs, and other infrastructure improvements. And then finally, Xinyi's ability to create jobs and business activities. So there'll be 320 direct local jobs created in the operation, and there will be other direct business development in terms of glass products. For example, we would anticipate that there may be a window manufacturer as a second product for using the float glass to locate to Stratford. And then, of course, there are all the indirect business opportunities supporting retailers in the entertainment industry, professional services, banking and financing, restaurants, etc. My last couple of slides are of existing Xinyi glass facilities. So this is in Malaysia. It's not in China. This is a large glass manufacturing facility recently constructed in Malaysia. The photograph at the top left, you can see the 100-meter stack in the background. You can see there's a little bit of the manufacturing building that's peeking out over the top of this is the warehouse facility. Internally, this is how they will handle the glass internally, and then you can see the racking system for the storage and ultimately the loading of glass in the warehouse. These are a couple of other photographs from other manufacturing facilities. You can see this plant, for example, is covered in solar panels. This is their R&D center. And then internal to the site, so this is their central computer system used for monitoring of all production systems. This is their system for rolling out the glass and ultimately cutting the glass, which is all, of course, there's robotics, but all of these systems have to be monitored by engineers and technicians. And that concludes my presentation, Sue.